The stranger rode into San Jose, California, on a mare so dust-covered she looked more brown than white. And when she dismounted outside the boarding house, Nathan Norris saw her wince like someone who had been running for far too long. It was spring of 1878, and the town had grown beyond its rough frontier edges into something resembling civilization, though the wildness still lingered in the hills beyond, and in the eyes of certain travelers passing through. Nathan had been mucking out the stables behind Mrs. Henderson's establishment when the woman arrived, her dark hair twisted into a practical bun beneath a weather-beaten hat, her riding dress torn at the hem and stained with the red dust of what he guessed might be Arizona territory. He watched her tie up the mare with practiced hands, speaking softly to the animal in a voice too low for him to catch the words. There was something about the way she moved, quick and efficient, but always glancing around like she expected something to come at her from the shadows. Nathan had worked with horses and cattle most of his 26 years, had ridden from Texas to California and back again, and he knew the look of someone being hunted. He had seen it in men who had made mistakes they could not take back, in women fleeing bad marriages or worse situations, and he saw it now in this stranger who could not have been more than 23 or 24 years old. She went inside the boarding house, and Nathan returned to his work, though his mind kept drifting back to her throughout the afternoon. He had been working odd jobs around San Jose for the past 3 months, saving money to buy breeding stock for his own ranch someday. His father had lost their family spread in a poker game when Nathan was 17, and he had spent nearly a decade working his way back toward that dream of land under his own name. Mrs. Henderson paid him fairly for maintaining her stables and doing repairs around the property, and he had a small room above the carriage house that suited him fine. That evening, when he went to the pump to wash up before supper, he nearly collided with the stranger coming from the same direction. Up close, she was even younger than he had thought, with startling green eyes and a sun-browned face, and a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. "Sorry, miss," he said, stepping back and removing his hat. "Did not see you there." "My fault," she said quickly, her voice soft but steady. "I was not watching where I was going." They stood there in the awkward silence that followed, and Nathan found himself searching for something to say that would not sound foolish. Finally, he gestured toward the dining room. "Mrs. Henderson sets a fine table. The roast beef on Thursdays is particularly good." "Thank you," the woman said, and something in her expression softened just slightly. "I am afraid I have not eaten much today. The ride was longer than I expected." "Where are you coming from?" The question was innocent enough, but he saw her entire body tense, saw her eyes dart past him toward the street as if checking for pursuit. "South," she said after a pause, "down through the Salinas Valley." It was not really an answer, and they both knew it. Nathan nodded slowly and put his hat back on. "Well, welcome to San Jose. I hope you find it to your liking." He moved past her toward the pump, but her voice stopped him. "Are you the man who tends the stables?" "Yes, miss, Nathan Norris." "Olivia Foster," she said, and he noticed the slight hesitation before she gave her last name, as if she had to remind herself what it was supposed to be. "My horse needs attention. She has been ridden hard, and I need to know she will be well cared for." "I will see to her personally," Nathan promised. "She will have fresh hay, clean water, and I will check her shoes and legs. If she needs rest, I will tell you plain." Relief flickered across Olivia Foster's face, and for just a moment, the wariness lifted enough for him to see the exhaustion beneath. "Thank you, Mr. Norris. That means a great deal to me." They ate supper at the same table that evening, along with 4 other boarders and misses. Henderson herself, a widow in her 50s who ran her establishment with practical kindness and a firm hand. The conversation ranged from the price of cattle to the new railroad spur being built toward the southern part of the valley. And Nathan noticed how Olivia listened intently, but said little, always keeping her face turned slightly away from the window that looked out onto the street. After the meal, Nathan went to check on her mare as promised. The animal was in rough shape, with worn shoes and strained legs that spoke of hard traveling. He worked carefully, rubbing liniment into the mare's joints and cleaning out her hooves, murmuring the way he always did with horses. He was nearly finished when he heard footsteps behind him and turned to find Olivia standing in the stable doorway. "I wanted to check on her," she said, moving to the mare's head and stroking her nose. "We have come a long way together." "She has been ridden too hard," Nathan said honestly. "Not recently, I mean, but over time. She needs at least a week of rest, maybe 2, before she should be pushed again. Olivia's hand stilled on the mare's neck, and Nathan saw fear flash through her eyes. "I cannot stay here 2 weeks." "Why not?" He asked it gently, not pressing, but genuinely curious. She was silent for a long moment, her fingers working through the mare's mane. Finally, she said, "Some situations do not allow for staying in one place too long." Nathan finished with the mare's back leg and straightened up, leaning against the stall. "I am not a man who pries into other people's business, Miss Foster, but I have been around long enough to know when someone is running from something. If you are in trouble, there are people in this town who might be able to help. Can they help with a man who thinks he owns you?" The words came out bitter and sharp, and Olivia looked startled by her own candor. She turned away, wrapping her arms around herself. "Forgive me, I should not have said that." "Nothing to forgive," Nathan said quietly. "And for what it is worth, no man owns another person, not anymore, and not ever in the way you mean. The law does not always see it that way when there is a marriage certificate involved," Olivia said, still not looking at him. "And even when the law does see it, the law is not always present when you need it." Nathan felt anger kindle in his chest, not at her but at whatever man had put that hunted look in her eyes. "Your husband? Former husband, if God is merciful and the judge I paid in Sacramento was honest," Olivia said. "I have papers saying the marriage was dissolved, but Leonard does not care about papers. He cares about property, and he considers me property he paid for." The bitterness in her voice cut through Nathan like a blade. He moved closer, careful not to crowd her, and said, "How long have you been running?" 6 months, she said softly. "Since I left Sacramento. I thought I had gotten far enough away, but 2 weeks ago, someone in Salinas recognized me, a friend of Leonard's family. He looked right at me in the general store, and I knew he would send word, so I rode north." "San Jose is not that far from Salinas," Nathan pointed out. "I know." Olivia finally turned to face him, and in the lantern light, he could see the depth of exhaustion in her features. "But my horse could not go any further, and neither could I. I thought perhaps I could rest here a few days, earn a bit of money doing laundry or mending, and then move on before anyone comes looking." Nathan considered this, working through the problem the way he would work through any puzzle. "What does this Leonard look like?" "Why?" "Because if I know what to watch for, I can keep an eye out, and if he shows up, you will have warning." Olivia studied him with those sharp green eyes, and Nathan had the sense he was being measured and weighed. "Why would you help me? You do not know me." "Because it is the right thing to do," Nathan said simply. "And because I do not hold with men who hurt women, no matter what piece of paper they might wave around to justify it." Something in Olivia's expression shifted, a tiny crack in the armor she wore. "He is tall, taller than you, with dark hair going gray at the temples. He dresses well, always in a suit, even when traveling. He carries a silver-topped walking stick, though he does not need it, and he has a way of smiling that never reaches his eyes." Nathan nodded, committing the description to memory. "If I see anyone matching that description, I will let you know immediately. In the meantime, you should rest. You look like you have not slept properly in days." "I have not," Olivia admitted. "It is hard to sleep when you are always listening for footsteps behind you." They left the stable together, walking across the yard toward the main house in companionable silence. At the back door, Olivia paused and said, "Thank you, Mr. Norris, for your kindness and for your discretion." "Nathan," he said. "Just Nathan." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Then you should call me Olivia." He watched her go inside, then returned to his room above the carriage house. But sleep eluded him as he lay in his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking about a woman with frightened eyes and a horse too tired to run anymore. Over the next several days, Nathan found himself inventing excuses to be wherever Olivia happened to be. He told himself it was just to keep watch, to make sure she was safe, but he knew it was more than that. There was something about her that drew him, a combination of vulnerability and fierce strength that he had never encountered before. She had taken work helping Mrs. Henderson with the cooking and cleaning, and Nathan noticed she always chose tasks that kept her away from windows facing the street. They fell into a pattern of evening conversations in the stable, where Olivia would come to check on her mare, and Nathan would be finishing his own work. She told him about growing up in Virginia, the daughter of a school teacher who died when she was 12, and a mother who remarried quickly and poorly. Her stepfather had arranged her marriage to Leonard Caldwell when she was 18, a business transaction disguised as romance. Leonard owned a shipping company in Sacramento and wanted a young, presentable wife to host his social gatherings and bear his children. "He seemed kind enough before the wedding," Olivia said one evening, sitting on a hay bale while Nathan repaired a broken bridle. "Or perhaps I was just too naive to see what he really was. It started small, comments about my dress, about how I wore my hair, about the way I laughed too loud at dinner parties. Then it became rules. I could not leave the house without his permission. I could not write letters without him reading them first. I could not speak to men without him present." "And it got worse," Nathan said, not a question. Olivia's hands tightened in her lap. "Yes. When I failed to get pregnant after the first year, he blamed me. Said I was defective, broken. The second year, when I still did not conceive, he started drinking more. And when he drank, he got mean." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice gentle. "Did he hit you?" "Yes." The word was barely a whisper. Not where it would show, not at first. He was too careful for that, too aware of his reputation. But eventually he stopped caring. I had bruises on my arms, on my ribs. Once he split my lip and told everyone I had tripped on the stairs. "How did you get away?" Olivia was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. "His business took him to San Francisco for 2 weeks. He left me locked in the house with minimal food, said it was for my own protection. But I had been planning for months, saving small amounts of money whenever I could, hiding it where he would not think to look. The day after he left, I bribed the housekeeper to let me out. I went to a lawyer, paid him everything I had saved to draw up divorce papers and file them with a judge who owed him a favor. Then I bought a horse and rode east, thinking I would disappear into the mining camps or cross the Sierras into Nevada. But you doubled back," Nathan said, understanding dawning. "I thought I would be safer in California, where I knew the language and the customs," Olivia explained. "I worked odd jobs, never staying anywhere longer than a few weeks. I kept moving, kept my head down. It worked until that man recognized me in Salinas." Nathan set down the bridle and moved to sit beside her on the hay bale, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "You cannot run forever, Olivia." "I know," she said, and there was a world of weariness in those 2 words. "But I do not know what else to do. If Leonard finds me, he will drag me back to Sacramento. He will tell everyone I am mentally unwell, that I need to be under his care, and the law will probably let him do it, because divorce or no divorce, I am still his wife in the eyes of anyone who knows us." "Not here," Nathan said firmly. "Here you are, just Olivia Foster, a woman working for room and board. Nobody in San Jose knows Leonard Caldwell, and if he shows up, he will find this town less friendly than he might expect." Olivia turned to look at him, and in the dim light of the stable, he could see hope and doubt warring in her expression. "You cannot protect me forever, Nathan." "Maybe not," he admitted, "but I can try for as long as you need." Something shifted between them in that moment, an understanding that went beyond words. Nathan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand in his. Her fingers were work-roughened and cold, and they trembled slightly as she laced them through his own. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. "You barely know me." "I know enough," Nathan said. "I know you are brave enough to leave everything behind to save yourself. I know you are strong enough to keep going, even when you are terrified. And I know that no matter what any man might have told you, you are not broken or defective or any of the other lies he fed you." Tears glistened in Olivia's eyes, and she blinked them back fiercely. "I have not cried in 6 months," she said. "I promised myself I would not give him that satisfaction, even if he was not there to see it." "Sometimes crying is not about satisfaction," Nathan said. "Sometimes it is just about letting go of weight you have carried too long." The tears spilled over then, silent tracks down her cheeks, and Nathan did the only thing he could think of. He put his arm around her shoulders and let her lean against him while she wept. She cried quietly, with a control that spoke of long practice at hiding her emotions, and when she finally stopped, she pulled back and wiped her face with her sleeve. "I am sorry," she said. "Do not be." They sat in silence for a while longer, and when Olivia finally stood to return to the house, Nathan walked with her. At the door she paused and said, "Thank you for listening. I have not told anyone the full story before." "You can tell me anything," Nathan said. "I will not judge you, and I will not betray your trust." The next morning, Nathan was shoeing a gelding in the stable yard when a well-dressed man rode into town on a roan horse. Something about the way the stranger carried himself, straight and arrogant in the saddle, made Nathan pay attention. The man stopped several people on the street, clearly asking questions, and Nathan felt his gut tighten with warning. He finished with the gelding quickly and wiped his hands on his leather apron, moving to where he could get a better look at the stranger. The man was tall and wearing a fine suit despite the dust of travel, and though Nathan could not see a walking stick from this distance, he matched the description Olivia had given well enough to raise alarm. Nathan found Mrs. Henderson in her kitchen, kneading bread dough with practiced efficiency. "Madam, there is a stranger in town asking questions. I think you should make sure Miss Foster stays inside and away from the windows." Mrs. Henderson was no fool. She had seen enough of life to read between the lines, and she had taken a motherly interest in Olivia over the past week. The man she is running from? Maybe. I am going to find out. He left the boarding house and walked down the main street of San Jose, keeping his pace casual but purposeful. The stranger was standing outside the general store now, talking to Mr. Patterson, who ran the place. Nathan approached from an angle that let him hear the conversation. "I am looking for my wife," the stranger was saying, his voice cultured and smooth. "She has been unwell, not in her right mind, and she wandered away from our home in Sacramento several months ago. I have been searching for her ever since. She may be using the name Foster, though her proper name is Caldwell." Mr. Patterson shook his head. "Can't say I have seen anyone by that description, stranger, but we get a fair number of travelers through here." The man pulled out a photograph and showed it to Mr. Patterson. Nathan could not see the image from where he stood, but he saw Patterson's eyes widen slightly in recognition before the storekeeper schooled his features back to neutrality. "Like I said, I have not seen her," Patterson repeated, and Nathan silently blessed the man for his loyalty to his neighbors over strangers. "But I will keep an eye out. Where are you staying in case I hear anything?" "I will be at the hotel," the stranger said, his tone cooling at Patterson's obvious stonewalling. "My name is Leonard Caldwell, and I would appreciate any information you might have. There is a reward for anyone who can help me find my poor, confused wife." Nathan felt his hands curl into fists, but he kept his expression neutral as he walked past the two men, tipping his hat politely. He continued down the street to the blacksmith's shop where his friend Diego worked. Diego Ruiz had grown up in San Jose and knew everyone and everything that happened in town. "I need a favor," Nathan said without preamble. Diego looked up from the horseshoe he was hammering and grinned. "You need many favors, my friend. Be more specific." "There is a man in town, calls himself Leonard Caldwell. He is looking for a woman, and I need to know everything he does and everyone he talks to." Diego's grin faded into something more serious. "This woman, she is the one staying at Mrs. Henderson's place? The one with the frightened eyes?" "Yes." "And this man, he is the reason for her fear?" "Yes." Diego set down his hammer and nodded slowly. "Then we will watch him. My cousin works at the hotel. I will tell him to keep his ears open, and I will spread word among the others. This Caldwell will not find her easily." "Thank you." "You do not need to thank me," Diego said. "Any man who frightens a woman the way that one is frightened deserves no help from decent people." Nathan returned to the boarding house to find Olivia in the kitchen with Mrs. Henderson, both women working in tense silence. When Olivia saw him, she set down the bowl she had been holding and moved to the doorway. "He is here, is he not?" she said quietly. "A man matching your description is asking questions around town," Nathan confirmed, "but nobody is telling him anything. Mr. Patterson saw his photograph and denied recognizing you. Diego is spreading word to keep an eye on him and report anything suspicious." Olivia pressed her hand to her mouth, breathing hard through her nose. "I need to leave, tonight, as soon as it is dark. If I go now, maybe he will follow and leave the town alone." "Your horse is not ready," Nathan said. "And you are not ready either. You are exhausted, Olivia. Another hard ride right now might break both of you." "Better broken than caught," she said bitterly. Nathan caught her hand, stopping her before she could rush off to pack. "Listen to me. You are not alone in this anymore. You have people here who will help you, who will stand between you and him if it comes to that. Stop running and let us help you make a stand." "You do not understand what he is capable of," Olivia said, her voice rising with panic. "He will hurt anyone who gets in his way. He has money and connections, and he does not care who he destroys to get what he wants. Then it is time someone stood up to him, Nathan said firmly. And besides, I have an idea. Over the next hour, Nathan explained his plan. It was risky and depended on several things going right. But it was better than letting Olivia run herself into the ground, fleeing from a man who would never stop chasing her. Mrs. Henderson listened with a thoughtful expression, occasionally nodding or asking a clarifying question. Olivia looked doubtful, but desperate enough to consider anything. It might work, Mrs. Henderson said finally, but it requires Olivia to trust that we can protect her, at least long enough for the plan to unfold. I do not know if I can do that, Olivia admitted, her voice small. Trust does not come easily anymore. Nathan knelt in front of where she sat, taking both her hands in his. I know, but I am asking you to try, just for a few days. If this does not work, I will personally escort you anywhere you want to go, even if we have to ride all the way to Oregon or down to Mexico. But give this a chance first. Olivia looked into his eyes for a long moment, searching for something. Whatever she found there must have been enough because she finally nodded. All right, I will trust you. But if this goes wrong, if he gets his hands on me, promise you will not blame yourself. It will not go wrong, Nathan said, with more confidence than he felt. The first part of the plan involved keeping Leonard Caldwell occupied and frustrated. Diego and his network of friends and family made sure that every inquiry the man made led nowhere. People forgot names, misremembered faces, sent him on wild chases to neighboring towns where his wife had supposedly been seen. Meanwhile, Nathan rode hard to Sacramento with a letter Olivia had written and the name of the lawyer who had handled her divorce. The journey took him 3 days there and back, pushing his horse harder than he liked, but not as hard as Olivia had pushed hers fleeing from her husband. Sacramento was bigger and busier than San Jose, with proper streets and substantial buildings that spoke of wealth and permanence. Nathan found the lawyer's office tucked above a dry goods store, and the man himself was younger than Nathan had expected, with sharp eyes and an air of nervous energy. I remember Mrs. Caldwell, the lawyer said after reading Olivia's letter, or Miss Foster, as she insisted I call her. She paid me well to handle her divorce quickly and quietly. I filed the papers with Judge Morrison, who processed them within a week. Everything was legal and proper. Do you have copies of those papers? Nathan asked. Of course. The lawyer pulled out a file and showed Nathan the documents. The divorce was granted on grounds of cruelty and abandonment. Mrs. Caldwell provided testimony, which I witnessed, detailing her husband's abusive behavior. Judge Morrison was sympathetic and expedited the process. Would you be willing to testify to that if needed? The lawyer hesitated, clearly weighing his professional reputation against the cost of getting involved in a messy situation. Finally, he said, If Mrs. Caldwell is in danger, yes, I will testify. I do not hold with men who abuse their wives, and I saw enough bruises on her arms when she came to my office to believe every word she told me. Nathan left Sacramento with copies of the divorce papers and a signed statement from the lawyer attesting to their legitimacy. He also stopped by the courthouse and spoke with Judge Morrison himself, an older man with stern features and a reputation for fairness. The judge remembered the case and agreed to write a letter confirming the divorce, which Nathan tucked carefully into his saddlebag alongside the other documents. When he returned to San Jose 5 days after leaving, he found the town in a state of quiet tension. Leonard Caldwell was still there, staying at the hotel and making increasingly aggressive inquiries about his missing wife. He had tried to search Mrs. Henderson's boarding house, but she had stood firm and refused him entry without proper legal authority. He had gone to the local marshal, but Marshal Jennings was a practical man who saw no reason to help a stranger harass his neighbors without solid proof of wrongdoing. He knows she is here, Olivia said, when Nathan found her in the kitchen that evening. He has stopped asking questions and started watching the boarding house. I saw him from the upstairs window this afternoon, just standing across the street and staring at the building. Let him watch, Nathan said. I have what we need. He showed her the papers, and Olivia read through them with shaking hands. When she finished, tears were streaming down her face again. These are real, legal and properly filed. I have been so afraid they were just empty promises, that the lawyer had taken my money and never actually processed the divorce. They are as real as anything can be, Nathan assured her. And tomorrow we are going to show them to your former husband and make it clear that he has no claim on you whatsoever. That night, Nathan barely slept. He kept running through the confrontation in his mind, imagining everything that could go wrong. Caldwell could become violent. He could refuse to acknowledge the papers. He could try to have Olivia committed to an asylum, claiming she was insane. But Nathan had prepared for all of those possibilities as best he could, and he had to believe that right would win out over might. Morning came gray and cool, with fog rolling in from the bay to shroud San Jose in mist. Nathan found Olivia already awake, dressed in her best dress with her hair neatly pinned. She looked pale but determined, and when she saw him, she managed a small smile. "I did not think I would be able to sleep, but I actually did," she said. "For the first time in months, I slept through the whole night without startling awake." "That is a good sign," Nathan said. "Are you ready for this?" "As ready as I will ever be." They walked together to the hotel, accompanied by Mrs. Henderson, Diego, Marshall Jennings, and Mr. Patterson from the general store. Nathan had gathered witnesses deliberately, people who could testify to what happened and who carried weight in the community. The hotel keeper directed them to Caldwell's room, and Nathan knocked firmly on the door. It opened to reveal the man himself, and Nathan felt a cold rush of dislike. Caldwell was exactly as Olivia had described, tall and well-dressed with cold eyes that swept over the group with barely concealed contempt. When his gaze landed on Olivia, something possessive and ugly flickered across his face. "Olivia," he said, his voice dripping false warmth. "Thank God. I have been so worried about you, my dear. These past months must have been terrible, but you are safe now. I am here to take you home." "I am home," Olivia said, her voice steady despite the fear Nathan could see in her eyes. "And I am not going anywhere with you, Leonard." Caldwell's expression hardened. "You are my wife. You are coming with me, whether you want to or not. Your little adventure is over." "I am not your wife," Olivia said. "Our marriage was legally dissolved 6 months ago in Sacramento. I have the papers to prove it." Nathan stepped forward and held out the documents. "These are certified copies of the divorce decree, signed by Judge Morrison and filed with the Sacramento County Courthouse. Mrs. Caldwell, who now goes by her maiden name of Foster, is a free woman with no legal obligation to you whatsoever." Caldwell snatched the papers and read through them, his face darkening with rage. "This is a fraud. You paid some crooked lawyer to forge these documents. No judge would grant a divorce without my knowledge or consent. Judge Morrison granted the divorce on grounds of cruelty, with testimony provided by Miss Foster herself," Marshall Jennings said calmly. "The documents are legal and binding. You have no claim on this woman." "She is mentally unwell," Caldwell insisted, his voice rising. "She does not know what she is doing. She needs medical care, supervision. I am her husband, and I am responsible for her welfare." "Former husband," Nathan corrected, "and the only person she needs supervision from is herself. Now I suggest you leave San Jose peacefully, or the marshal here can escort you to the town limits." Caldwell's hand moved toward his jacket, and Nathan tensed, ready to intervene if the man pulled a weapon. But Diego stepped forward, his blacksmith's arms crossed over his chest, and Mr. Patterson moved to block the doorway. The message was clear. Caldwell was outnumbered and outmatched. "This is not over," Caldwell said, his voice low and venomous. He looked directly at Olivia. "You are nothing without me. You will end up dead in a ditch somewhere, or worse. And when you come crawling back, begging for my forgiveness, I will make sure you regret every day of this foolish rebellion." "I would rather die free than live one more day under your control," Olivia said, and there was steel in her voice that Nathan had not heard before. "You do not own me, Leonard. You never did. And you never will again." Caldwell looked like he wanted to argue further, but Marshall Jennings stepped forward with his hand resting on his gun. "I think it is time for you to pack up and leave, Mr. Caldwell. You have worn out whatever welcome you might have had in this town." They escorted Caldwell downstairs and watched while he settled his hotel bill and saddled his horse. The man's fury was palpable, radiating off him in waves, but he was smart enough not to try anything with so many witnesses present. Before he mounted, he looked one last time at Olivia. "You will regret this," he said. "The only thing I regret is ever believing you love me," Olivia replied. Caldwell rode out of San Jose heading south, and the group stood in the street watching until he disappeared into the morning fog. Only then did Olivia's rigid posture crumble, and she swayed where she stood. Nathan caught her elbow, steadying her. "It is done," he said softly. "He is gone. For now, Olivia whispered. But what if he comes back? What if he brings lawyers or doctors or the law from Sacramento? Then we will deal with it, Nathan said firmly. You are not alone in this, Olivia. You have friends here, people who will stand with you. Mrs. Henderson put her arm around Olivia's shoulders. Come back to the house, dear. I will make you some strong tea and something to eat. You look like you are about to faint. They returned to the boarding house, and gradually the tension that had gripped everyone began to ease. Diego clapped Nathan on the shoulder before heading back to his forge. That went better than I expected. The man is a coward at heart. When he saw he would have to fight for her, he backed down. I hope you are right, Nathan said, but I am not sure we have seen the last of Leonard Caldwell. Over the following weeks, however, there was no sign of Caldwell returning. Olivia remained at the boarding house, continuing her work helping Mrs. Henderson, and gradually the fear began to fade from her eyes. She laughed more easily, smiled more often, and started making plans that extended beyond the next few days. Nathan found himself seeking out her company more and more, drawn by her quick mind and dry sense of humor that emerged as she relaxed. They took walks together in the evenings, strolling through the orchards that surrounded San Jose and talking about everything and nothing. Olivia told him about her childhood, about her father, who had taught her to read and write and think for herself, skills that had ultimately saved her life. Nathan told her about growing up on a ranch in Texas, about the day his father lost everything, and how it had shaped him into someone who valued security and stability above almost everything else. I still want my own land, he admitted one evening as they sat on a fence rail watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. A place where I can raise horses and cattle, build something that belongs to me. It has been my dream since I was 17 years old. That is a good dream, Olivia said. Important. Everyone should have something that belongs to them, something nobody can take away. What is your dream? Nathan asked. Olivia was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. I used to dream about having children, a family of my own, with a man who actually loved me. But after Leonard, I do not know if I can trust anyone that much again. Nathan reached over and took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. Trust takes time. Nobody expects you to heal overnight from what you went through. Do you want children? Olivia asked, looking at him with those sharp green eyes. Someday, Nathan said honestly, when I have that ranch and a woman who wants to build that life with me. But I am in no rush. I figure the right things come along when they are meant to. Something passed between them then, unspoken but powerful. Olivia squeezed his hand and leaned her head against his shoulder, and they sat that way until the sun disappeared below the horizon and the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. The moment Nathan realized he was in love with Olivia came on an ordinary Tuesday in late June. He was repairing a broken wagon wheel in the stable yard, sweating in the summer heat, when he heard her laughing at something Mrs. Henderson had said. The sound was pure and unguarded, filled with genuine joy, and it hit Nathan like a physical blow. He loved this woman. He loved her strength and her vulnerability, her quick mind and wounded heart. He loved the way she moved through the world with determination despite her fear, and the way she had started to trust him with pieces of herself she kept hidden from everyone else. The realization terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. He had never been in love before, had never felt this overwhelming need to be near someone, to make them happy, to protect them from anything that might cause them harm. He finished with the wagon wheel in a daze, his mind spinning with questions. Did Olivia feel the same way? Was she even ready for those feelings after everything she had been through? Should he tell her, or would that just add pressure she did not need? He was still wrestling with these thoughts that evening when Olivia found him in the stable. She had taken to helping him with the evening chores, not because she needed to, but because she enjoyed his company. They worked side by side in comfortable silence, feeding the horses and checking water troughs, until everything was done and they were standing in the gathering dusk. Nathan, Olivia said softly, can I ask you something? Anything. She turned to face him, and in the low light he could see uncertainty in her expression. Why have you been so kind to me? And please do not say it is just because it is the right thing to do. I need to understand what this is, what we are. Nathan's heart hammered in his chest. This was the moment to be honest, to lay his cards on the table and accept whatever came next. I have been kind to you because I care about you, Olivia. more than I have cared about anyone in a long time. Maybe more than I have ever cared about anyone. Care how? She pressed, stepping closer. As a friend? As someone you feel sorry for? As a woman I am falling in love with, Nathan said, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess them. As someone I want to build a life with, if you will have me. I know the timing is terrible, and you have every reason not to trust any man right now, but I need you to know how I feel. I need you to know that when I look at you, I see someone strong and brave and beautiful, someone I want to wake up next to for the rest of my life. Olivia stared at him, her eyes wide with shock. For a terrible moment, Nathan thought he had made a horrible mistake, that he had pushed too hard and too fast. But then she closed the distance between them and kissed him, her hands coming up to frame his face. The kiss was tentative at first, almost questioning, but when Nathan wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her closer, it deepened into something fierce and desperate. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Olivia rested her forehead against his. "I am scared," she whispered. "I am so scared of feeling this way again, of giving someone this much power over me." "I would never hurt you," Nathan said. "I swear on everything I hold sacred, I would cut off my own hand before I raised it against you." "I know," Olivia said, and there were tears on her cheeks. "That is what scares me most. I actually believe you, and believing in someone again after Leonard feels like stepping off a cliff and hoping someone will catch me. I will catch you," Nathan promised, every single time. They stood there holding each other as night fell around them, and when they finally walked back to the boarding house, their hands were clasped tightly together. At the door, Olivia paused and looked up at him. "I am falling in love with you too," she said softly. "I did not think I could feel this way again, but here we are. So, what do we do now?" "We take it one day at a time," Nathan said. "We figure out what we want and how to get there, and we do it together." Over the following months, Nathan and Olivia built something real and lasting. They courted in the old-fashioned sense with proper walks and supervised picnics and long conversations on Mrs. Henderson's front porch. Nathan was patient, never pushing for more than Olivia was ready to give, understanding that her trust had to be earned slowly and carefully. When he finally asked her to marry him on a clear October evening, kneeling in front of her with a simple gold ring he had bought with his saved wages, she said yes without hesitation. They were married in November of 1878, in a small ceremony at the Catholic Church with half the town in attendance. Diego stood as Nathan's best man, and Mrs. Henderson cried happy tears as Olivia walked down the aisle in a dress the older woman had helped her sew. Father Miguel performed the ceremony, speaking about love and commitment and the sacred bond of marriage, and when Nathan kissed his bride, he tasted salt from her tears and sunshine from her smile. The reception was held in Mrs. Henderson's dining room, with food and music and dancing that went late into the night. Nathan watched Olivia laugh and dance with Diego and Mr. Patterson and half a dozen other men who had become her friends and protectors, and felt his heart swell with happiness. She was free now, truly free, not just from Leonard Caldwell, but from the fear that had haunted her for so long. They spent their wedding night in the room above the carriage house that had been Nathan's home for the past year. It was small and simple, but Olivia said it was perfect. They made love slowly and carefully, Nathan constantly checking to make sure she was comfortable, that she wanted this. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the narrow bed, talking quietly about their plans. "I want to save enough money to buy land by next spring," Nathan said, running his fingers through Olivia's unbound hair. "Maybe a few acres south of town where the soil is good. We can start with horses and add cattle later." "I have money," Olivia said quietly. "Not much, but some. I have been saving since I started working for Mrs. Henderson." Nathan propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her. "You do not have to use your savings. I will provide for us." "I want to contribute," Olivia said firmly. "This is our dream, not just yours. We build it together." "Together," Nathan agreed, leaning down to kiss her. "Everything together from now on." It was during one of their planning sessions a few weeks later, sitting at the small table in their room, going over land prices and costs, that Nathan noticed something odd. Olivia kept reaching down to touch her boot, a quick nervous gesture that she seemed unaware of. After the third time, he asked, "Are your boots uncomfortable? I can take you to get new ones if you need them." Olivia froze, her hand halfway to her boot. Then she let out a long breath and pulled off the boot in question, reaching inside to pull out a small leather pouch. She set it on the table between them, and Nathan could hear the clink of coins. "I keep money here," she said quietly. "Hidden in my boot where nobody would think to look. It is a habit I got into while I was running from Leonard. Every place I stopped, every job I worked, I kept a little bit of cash hidden away, just in case." Nathan stared at the pouch, understanding washing over him. "In case you need to run again." "Yes." Olivia's voice was barely above a whisper. "I know it does not make sense now. I am married to you, I am safe, Leonard has not come back. But some part of me still thinks about escape routes and backup plans. Some part of me is still that terrified woman riding through the night with nowhere to go." Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. "How much is in there?" "About $40, Olivia said. "Enough to buy a horse and supplies, to get a few weeks down the road if I needed to disappear fast. And you keep it in your boot even though you are here with me." "I am sorry," Olivia said, tears filling her eyes. "I know it means I do not fully trust this yet, that I do not fully trust that I am allowed to stay, but I cannot help it. Every time I try to take the money out and put it with our other savings, something stops me." Nathan stood and came around the table, kneeling in front of her chair. He took both her hands in his and looked up into her face. "Listen to me. I am not angry. I am not hurt. I understand why you need that safety net, and I do not expect you to give it up until you are ready. Keep your emergency money. Keep it for as long as you need to. And if there ever comes a day when you do not feel like you need it anymore, you will know you are finally free." "You are not upset?" Olivia asked tremulously. "I am upset that someone hurt you so badly you felt you needed to do this," Nathan said. "But I am not upset with you, and I do not want you to feel guilty about doing what you need to do to feel safe." Olivia pulled him up and into a fierce embrace, burying her face against his shoulder. "I love you so much. I do not know what I did to deserve you, but I thank God every day that you walked into my life." "I love you too," Nathan murmured into her hair, "and you deserve everything good this world has to offer." The winter of 1878 passed into the spring of 1879, and Nathan and Olivia continued to save every penny they could. By April, they had enough for a down payment on 20 acres of good land south of San Jose, with a creek running through it and mature oak trees providing shade. Nathan spent every spare moment working the land, building a small house with help from Diego and other friends. It was not fancy, just 3 rooms with a wood stove and glass windows, but it was theirs. They moved in during May, and Olivia cried when she walked through the door for the first time as the owner rather than a guest or tenant. Nathan carried her over the threshold, both of them laughing, and they spent that first night in their new home making love on a mattress laid directly on the floor because their bed frame had not been delivered yet. "This is ours," Olivia kept saying, touching the walls and windows as if she could not quite believe they were real. "Nobody can take this away from us." "Nobody?" Nathan agreed. "This is our land, our home. We built it together." They worked hard that first year, establishing their horse breeding operation and putting in a garden that Olivia tended with careful attention. Nathan bought their first mares in June, good solid stock with strong bloodlines, and by August they had their first foal. Olivia spent hours with the young horse, gentling it and training it, and Nathan watched her with pride and love. This was the life they had both dreamed of, and they were building it together. It was in September, nearly a year after their wedding, that Olivia came to him with news that made his heart leap. She was pregnant, due sometime in late April or early May. Nathan picked her up and spun her around, whooping with joy, and Olivia laughed and clung to him. "We are going to be parents," she said, wonder in her voice. "I am going to have a baby, your baby, and I am not afraid." "Why would you be afraid?" Nathan asked, setting her down gently. "Because Leonard always said I was defective, that I could not conceive," Olivia explained. "For years I believed him. I thought there was something wrong with me. But it was not me at all. It was him. It was the stress and the fear and the constant anxiety. Now that I am happy and safe, my body knows it is all right to have a child." Nathan pulled her close, overcome with emotion. "Our child is going to be so loved, so wanted, so protected. I promise you that." "I know," Olivia said, and there was absolute certainty in her voice. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the fall and winter. Olivia bloomed with health, her face glowing and her body rounding with the growing child. Nathan was attentive to the point of being overprotective, constantly worrying about her doing too much work or not eating enough. Olivia found his concern endearing but exasperating in equal measure. "I am pregnant, not made of glass," she would tell him when he tried to take over her chores. "Women have been doing this since the beginning of time." "But not my woman carrying my child," Nathan would reply, and Olivia would laugh and kiss him and let him fuss over her a little bit. Their son was born in April of 1880, arriving after a long but uncomplicated labor. Nathan had never been so terrified in his life as he was during those hours, pacing outside their bedroom while Mrs. Henderson and the midwife attended to Olivia. But when he finally heard the baby's first cry, strong and healthy and indignant, he felt tears stream down his face. They named him Samuel after Nathan's father, who had died several years before. He was a beautiful baby, with dark hair and blue eyes that Nathan swore would turn green like his mother's. Olivia held him with a mixture of awe and fierce protectiveness, and Nathan knew she was thinking about everything she had survived to get to this moment. "He is perfect," she whispered, tracing Samuel's tiny features with her finger. "Absolutely perfect." "Just like his mother," Nathan said, sitting on the edge of the bed and putting his arm around both of them. They settled into the rhythms of new parenthood, taking turns with night feedings and diaper changes, marveling at every new expression and sound Samuel made. The ranch continued to grow, with more horses and eventually a small herd of cattle. Money was tight, but never desperately so, and Nathan felt the deep satisfaction of building something lasting. One evening in late summer, when Samuel was 4 months old and sleeping peacefully in his cradle, Nathan found Olivia sitting on their front porch watching the sunset. He sat beside her and took her hand, noting with interest that she was not wearing her boots despite the cooling evening air. "Comfortable?" he asked. Olivia smiled and wiggled her bare toes. "Very. I was just thinking about something." "What is that?" "I took the money out of my boot last week," she said quietly. "The emergency money I kept hidden for so long. I put it in the tin we keep in the kitchen with the rest of our savings." Nathan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "What made you decide to do that?" "I realized I did not need it anymore," Olivia said simply. "I am not going to run. This is my home. You are my husband. Samuel is my son. This is my life, and I am not afraid of losing it anymore. So I do not need an escape plan tucked in my boot. I do not need to be ready to run at a moment's notice." Nathan pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "I am so proud of you. I know how hard you have worked to get to this point." "It was worth every step," Olivia said. "Every frightening moment, every uncertain mile. All of it led me here, to you, to this life, and I would not change any of it because changing it might mean I never found you." They sat together in the gathering dusk, listening to the sounds of their land and their life. Inside the house, Samuel made a small sound, but settled back to sleep without waking. The horses nickered softly in their corral. A night bird called from the oak trees. It was perfect and peaceful, and everything Nathan had ever dreamed of. "Do you think Leonard ever thinks about me?" Olivia asked suddenly. "Do you think he regrets what he did?" "I have no idea," Nathan said honestly. "But I do not spend time worrying about him. He is part of your past, and I am focused on your future. Our future." "Our future?" Olivia repeated, leaning against him. "I like the sound of that." The years passed in a steady progression of work and joy and growth. Samuel grew into a sturdy toddler with his mother's green eyes and his father's stubborn determination. In 1882, Olivia gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Rose after Nathan's mother. She was a quiet baby with dark curls and a thoughtful expression, and Samuel appointed himself her protector from the moment he met her. The ranch prospered. Nathan's horses gained a reputation for quality throughout California, and buyers came from as far as San Francisco to purchase breeding stock. Olivia proved to have a gift for managing the business side of things, keeping meticulous records and negotiating prices with a shrewd eye. Together, they were formidable, building wealth and security year by year. Diego married in 1883, and Nathan stood as his best man, just as Diego had stood for him. The wedding celebration went on for 2 days, with music and dancing and enough food to feed half of San Jose. Olivia danced with their children, laughing as Samuel tried to copy the adult steps, and Rose toddled around, getting in everyone's way. "This is happiness," Nathan said to Diego, watching his wife and children. "This is what life is supposed to be." "You earned it, my friend," Diego replied, clapping him on the shoulder. "Both of you earned it." In 1885, when Samuel was 5 and Rose was 3, Olivia announced she was pregnant again. This time, Nathan was less anxious, trusting in her strength and the pattern they had established. Their third child was born in December, another son they named James. He was a loud baby who made his presence known at all hours, but Nathan and Olivia welcomed the chaos with the easy confidence of experienced parents. That winter, as Nathan sat in their rocking chair with baby James sleeping on his chest, he reflected on how far they had come. 8 years ago, Olivia had arrived in San Jose, frightened and alone, with nothing but a tired horse and money hidden in her boot. Now she was a successful rancher's wife, the mother of 3 healthy children, secure in the knowledge that she was loved and valued and safe. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked from the doorway, having just put Samuel and Rose to bed. "How lucky I am," Nathan said. "How grateful I am that you chose to stay when you could have kept running." Olivia crossed the room and kissed him softly. "I chose you, and I would choose you again every single day for the rest of my life." In 1887, they bought an additional 40 acres adjacent to their original property, doubling the size of their ranch. Nathan built a new barn and expanded the horse operation, while Olivia started experimenting with orchards, planting apple and pear trees that would mature over the coming years. Samuel, now 7, was old enough to help with basic chores, and he took to ranch life with enthusiasm. More children came, another daughter named Margaret in 1888, and finally twin boys, Robert and William, in 1890. The house expanded to accommodate the growing family, with additions built onto the original 3 rooms. It was chaotic and loud and filled with love, everything Nathan had dreamed of and more. On their 12th wedding anniversary in November of 1890, Nathan took Olivia into town for a rare evening alone. They left the children with Mrs. Henderson, who was now in her 60s but still spry enough to wrangle 5 energetic youngsters for a few hours. They had dinner at the hotel restaurant, a luxury they rarely indulged in, and afterward walked through the streets of San Jose hand in hand. "Do you remember the first time I saw you?" Nathan asked as they strolled past the boarding house where they had met. "You rode into town, looking like you expected the devil himself to be on your heels." "I did expect that," Olivia said with a smile. "In a way he was, but you helped me stand and fight instead of running forever." "We stood together," Nathan corrected, "and we are still standing." They stopped in front of the stable where they had shared so many conversations in those early days, where Nathan had first realized he was falling in love with this fierce, frightened woman. It was a boarding stable now, run by a young couple, but Nathan could still remember every detail of how it had looked 12 years ago. "Sometimes I think about what my life would have been like if I had kept running," Olivia said quietly. "If I had not stayed in San Jose, if I had not trusted you, I would have run myself to death, physically or spiritually or both. I would have spent my whole life looking over my shoulder, never building anything or trusting anyone. You saved me from that." "You saved yourself," Nathan said firmly. "I just gave you a reason to stop running, but the courage to stay, to fight, to build a new life, that all came from you." Olivia turned to face him, her eyes bright in the lamplight from the street. "I need to tell you something I have never said out loud before." "What is it?" "That day you found the money in my boot, when you asked me why I kept it there, and I told you it was in case I needed to run again, I was testing you. Part of me expected you to get angry, to tell me I was being foolish or paranoid, to try to control me the way Leonard did. But instead, you understood. You gave me permission to do what I needed to feel safe, and that was the moment I knew I could trust you completely. That was the moment I knew you were different from every other man I had ever known." Nathan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "I never wanted to control you, Olivia. I only ever wanted to love you and protect you and give you the freedom to be yourself." "I know," she said softly, "and you have done all of that and more. You gave me a life I never dreamed I could have. You gave me children and a home and security and love. So much love that sometimes I do not know what to do with it all." "You give it back," Nathan said, pulling her close. "You give it to me and to our children and to this life we built together, and that is more than enough." They kissed there on the street corner, not caring who might see. Two people who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful from the ashes of trauma and fear. As they walked back to collect their children, Nathan thought about the future stretching ahead of them. There would be challenges, certainly. Ranching was never easy, and raising 5 children in the California wilderness had its own set of difficulties. But they would face everything together, the way they had faced everything from the beginning. Years continued to pass in their established rhythm. By 1895, Samuel was 15 and tall as his father, already talking about starting his own horse operation someday. Rose at 13 was showing her mother's head for business, keeping detailed records of the ranch's expenses and income. James at 10 was the wild one, always climbing trees and exploring the far corners of their property. Margaret at 7 had her mother's green eyes and a gentle way with animals that suggested she might be a veterinarian someday. The twins, Robert and William, were 5 years old and still difficult to tell apart, though Olivia insisted they had completely different personalities. The ranch had become one of the most successful operations in the region, known for producing high-quality horses and maintaining ethical business practices. Nathan and Olivia had earned respect throughout California, not just for their business acumen, but for their fairness and generosity. They hired workers at good wages, treated everyone with dignity regardless of background, and were known to help neighbors in times of trouble. One day in spring of 1896, a stranger rode up to their ranch asking for Nathan. He was an older gentleman with kind eyes, and he introduced himself as a lawyer from Sacramento. Nathan's first thought was of Leonard Caldwell, but the lawyer quickly put that fear to rest. "I am here on behalf of Judge Morrison," the lawyer explained. "He passed away last month, and in going through his effects, we found a sealed letter addressed to Nathan and Olivia Norris of San Jose. The judge left instructions that it should be delivered to you personally." Nathan took the letter with trembling hands, thanking the lawyer for his trouble. After the man left, Nathan called Olivia, and together they opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in the judge's distinctive handwriting, dated just a few months before his death. The letter explained that Leonard Caldwell had died in 1890 of a heart condition, alone and largely unmourned. Before his death, Caldwell had apparently made peace with what he had done, writing to Judge Morrison to admit that his treatment of Olivia had been cruel and unjustified. He had expressed regret, though Judge Morrison noted that the regret seemed more about his own wasted life than about the harm he had caused. The judge had waited to share this information until after Caldwell's death, not wanting to disturb Olivia's hard-won peace while the man still lived. Olivia read the letter twice, her expression unreadable. Then she carefully folded it and placed it back in the envelope. "He is dead," she said quietly. "He has been dead for 6 years, and I did not even know." "How do you feel?" Nathan asked gently. "I feel nothing," Olivia said after a moment of reflection. "No relief, no satisfaction, no anger. He stopped mattering to me so long ago that finding out he is gone changes nothing. The monster I was running from died long before his body did. I killed that monster when I chose to stay and fight. Everything after that was just details." Nathan pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "I am proud of you. I am so incredibly proud of the woman you have become." "I am proud of both of us," Olivia said, her voice muffled against his chest. "We built this. We created this life out of fear and pain and determination. And look what we have now. Look at what we made." They stood together in the afternoon sunlight, surrounded by the sounds of their children playing and their horses whinnying, and their land living and breathing around them. It was everything Nathan had dreamed of during those long years of working toward his goal, and everything Olivia had hoped for during those desperate months of running. That evening, as the family gathered for dinner around their long table, Nathan looked at each face in turn. Samuel, nearly a man now, discussing breeding strategies with intelligent focus. Rose, helping serve food while managing to correct her brother's math on feed costs. James, telling an animated story about a hawk he had seen that afternoon. Margaret, quietly ensuring everyone had enough to eat before taking her own portion. The twins, arguing good-naturedly about whose turn it was to help with dishes. And, at the other end of the table, Olivia, his wife and partner, and the love of his life, meeting his gaze with a smile that held 17 years of history and a lifetime of promise still to come. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked him later that night as they prepared for bed. I am thinking about that first day you rode into town, Nathan said. How scared you were, how alone. And I am thinking about now, about this life we built, the journey from there to here. It was a long journey, Olivia agreed, sitting on their bed and unpinning her hair. But every step was worth it. Do you ever regret staying? Ever wish you had kept running, seen what else was out there? Olivia looked at him with surprise. Not for a single moment. You and our children, this ranch, this life, it is everything I ever wanted and things I did not even know I could want. Running was just survival. This is actually living. Nathan sat beside her, taking her hand. The skin was work roughened now, bearing the marks of years of labor. But to him, it was beautiful. I love you. I have loved you from almost the moment I met you, and I will love you until the day I die. I know, Olivia said simply, and I love you the same way. You gave me the gift of safety, and I do not just mean physical safety. You made me feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to trust, to love again. That is a gift beyond price. They made love that night with the easy familiarity of long partnership, finding joy and comfort in each other's touch. Afterward, as they lay tangled together in the darkness, Nathan traced patterns on Olivia's back and thought about time. 17 years since she rode into San Jose with money hidden in her boot and terror in her eyes. 17 years of work and love and building something that would last beyond both of them. Their children would inherit this ranch, would carry forward the values they had tried to instill. Samuel would probably take over the horse operation, with Rose managing the business side. The younger children would find their own paths, but they would always have this place to return to, this foundation of love and security. Nathan? Olivia's sleepy voice interrupted his thoughts. Yes? Thank you for seeing me that day. Not just looking at me, but really seeing me, seeing past the fear to who I actually was underneath. Thank you for trusting me enough to let me see, Nathan replied. They drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms. Two people who had found each other in the chaos of the Wild West and built something beautiful against all odds. The years continued their steady march forward. The children grew and eventually began to leave home one by one, though none went far. Samuel married in 1900 and built his own house on the far corner of their property, starting his own breeding operation with his father's blessing and support. Rose married a school teacher in 1902 and moved to San Jose, though she continued to keep the ranch's books and visit every week. James surprised everyone by declaring he wanted to be a doctor and heading east to medical school in 1905. Margaret married a rancher from Salinas in 1907, though she insisted on keeping her practice of veterinary medicine even after her wedding. The twins, inseparable as always, went into business together, buying and selling horses throughout California. By 1910, Nathan and Olivia were in their 50s, grandparents several times over, still working their ranch, but with the help of their sons and hired hands. The property had expanded to nearly 200 acres, a small empire built on hard work and smart decisions. One evening in late summer, Nathan found Olivia sitting on the porch they had built 20 years earlier, watching the sun set over their land. He sat beside her in his usual spot, and they rocked in comfortable silence for a while. "Do you remember," Olivia said eventually, "how terrified I was when I first got here? How I could not sleep through the night? How every shadow looked like a threat?" "I remember," Nathan said. "I also remember how brave you were, how determined not to let fear win." "I was thinking about that emergency money I kept in my boot," Olivia continued. "How I held on to it for so long, even after I knew I was safe. Even after we were married and building this ranch. I kept it there like a talisman, like proof that I could still run if I needed to." "And then one day you did not need it anymore," Nathan said, remembering the evening she had told him about moving the money. "Do you know when I finally felt completely free?" Olivia asked. "It was not when Leonard died. It was not even when I took the money out of my boot. It was the first time I held Samuel, our firstborn son, and realized that I had created a life instead of just escaping from one. That was when I knew I had won. That was when I knew I would never run again." Nathan reached over and took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers, the way he had done thousands of times over their 32 years together. "We won," he corrected gently. "We did this together." "Together," Olivia agreed, squeezing his hand. "Always together." They sat on their porch as the sun painted the sky, orange and gold and purple, two people who had found each other in the Wild West and built a love story that would endure for generations. The ranch spread out before them, testament to their hard work and determination. Their children and grandchildren carried their values forward into the new century. And somewhere in the house behind them, tucked away in a drawer, was an old leather pouch that had once held emergency money hidden in a boot, kept now as a reminder of how far they had come and how much they had overcome. "I love you," Nathan said as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. "I love you too," Olivia replied. "Today, tomorrow, and for every day we have left." And that, Nathan thought, was the perfect ending to a story that had begun with a frightened woman riding into town on a tired horse, carrying everything she owned and hiding money in her boot in case she needed to run again. She had stopped running, she had built a life, she had found love, and she had created a legacy that would last long after both of them were gone. The Wild West had been tamed, but the love they had forged in its dust and danger remained as wild and fierce and beautiful as ever. And that was how it should be.